Black millionaire rejects company deal, exposes politics, and gives surprising revenge. Lisa had it all, right? High-powered job at Sterling Innovations, killer apartment overlooking Central Park, and colleagues she genuinely considered friends. 12 years she'd poured into that place. Then, bam! Tuesday morning, Brenda from HR, looking like she'd just swallowed lemons, tells Lisa she's out. Restructuring, she says. Like that explains the gut punch. No warning, no thanks for the dedication. Just a cardboard box and a swift kick to the curb. Lisa was floored. But she's a fighter. That night, fueled by day-old coffee and a slow burn rage, she digs out her employment contract. Remember, those things you sign without reading? Well, a line about unvested stock options jumps off the page. Stock options? Was this the crack in Sterling's armor? Next day, she's at Sarah Walker's office. Sarah's a bulldog lawyer, the kind who loves taking on the big guys. Lisa spills the whole story, the dismissal, the stock options, the pure, unadulterated injustice. Sarah leans back, a tiny spark in her eye. This could get interesting, Lisa. Those options might be your ticket to freedom. And maybe a little payback. But Sarah warns her. Sterling will fight dirty. Endless legal battles, deep pockets, potential for things to get really ugly. Lisa doesn't care. She's got that fire in her belly. She won't let them get away with it. Sarah starts digging, and what she finds is disturbing. Whispers of backroom deals, manipulated performance reviews. Turns out Lisa's firing wasn't just about restructuring. It was about covering something up. Something big. What was Sterling hiding, and what part did Lisa play without even knowing it? Then, the bombshell. Late that night, an anonymous envelope arrives. Inside, a single photograph. Mr. Thompson, Sterling's CEO, shaking hands with a lobbyist notorious for his shady connections to corrupt politicians. On the back, a handwritten note. The rabbit hole goes deeper then. You think, who sent it? What do they want? Lisa knows one thing. This isn't just about her job anymore. This is about something way bigger, something seriously dangerous. Ei, antes de continuarmos com essa história incrível, preciso te fazer alerta importante. Muitos inscritos têm relatado que o YouTube removeu suas inscrições sem aviso. Dá só uma conferida rápida no botão vermelho aí embaixo para garantir que você ainda está inscrito no canal. Não quero que você perca nenhum conteúdo exclusivo que vem por aí. E já que você está aí, deixa aquele like poderoso que me ajuda muito com o algoritmo. Ah, e me conta, nos comentários, de qual cidade você está assistindo. Adoro conhecer cada pessoa incrível que faz parte dessa comunidade. Sua participação faz toda a diferença. Vamos interagir. Lisa felt a chill crawl up her spine. This wasn't just about some corporate screw-up. This was dirty. She showed Sarah the photo the next morning. Sarah's face tightened. This changes everything, Lisa. We're not just talking wrongful termination anymore. We're talking conspiracy. Sarah called a contact, a reporter named Jake, who'd broken some seriously big stories in the past. He looked at the photo, whistled low. Thompson and the fixer? Yeah, that's trouble with a capital T. He agreed to dig. Around. Discreetly. Lisa tried to focus, but her mind was racing. What had she stumbled into? Then came the call. It was Jake. His voice was tight. Lisa, I need to see you. Now. Somewhere safe. They met at a dive bar downtown. The kind of place where nobody looked twice at anyone. Jake slid a file across the table. This is what I found. Thompson's been using Sterling to funnel money into offshore accounts, all tied to that lobbyist. They're funding some seriously shady political campaigns, stuff that could bring down the whole house of cards. Lisa felt sick. She'd been working for these people, helping them get richer, while they were screwing over everyone. But that's not all, Jake said, leaning in close. I found something else. Something about you. He handed her another document. It was a birth certificate. Lisa stared at it, confused. What's this? Jake took a long swig of his beer. Lisa, your last name? It's not really your last name, is it? You were adopted. And your biological father? Well, he was someone very powerful. Someone who stood in Thompson's way a long time ago. Lisa's head spun. Adopted? This was insane. She looked closer at the birth certificate. The father's name? It was blacked out. But there was a note scribbled in the margin, barely legible. He knows. Suddenly, Lisa's phone rang. It was Brenda from HR. Lisa, Mr. Thompson wants to see you. Immediately. He knows about the stock options. He says he wants to make things right. Lisa froze. This was a trap. She knew it. But what choice did she have? She walked into Thompson's office an hour later. He was standing by the window, looking out at Central Park. The same view she used to enjoy. He turned around. A smile on his face. Lisa, so glad you could come. We've had a misunderstanding. He gestured to a chair. Lisa didn't sit. What do you want, Thompson? He chuckled. Let's just say I'm offering you a second chance. A very generous one. All you have to do is forget about those stock options. And maybe stop digging into things you don't understand. And if I don't? Lisa asked, her voice steady despite the fear churning in her stomach. Thompson's smile vanished. Then, things could get very messy for you, Lisa. Very messy indeed. Suddenly, the door burst open. Two men in dark suits rushed in, grabbing Lisa. She struggled, but they were too strong. What's going on? She yelled. Thompson just shook his head. Sometimes, Lisa, it's better not to know too much. They dragged her out of the office, down the hall, and into the elevator. As the doors closed, Lisa saw Thompson's face one last time. He wasn't smiling anymore. He looked scared. The elevator stopped, not at the lobby, at the sub-basement, a place Lisa didn't even know existed. The men shoved her out into a dimly lit room, and that's when she saw him, sitting in a chair in the corner, his face hidden in shadow, a familiar figure. Her lawyer, Sarah Walker. But something was different. Sarah wasn't wearing her usual power suit. She was wearing a police uniform, and she had a gun. Sorry, Lisa, Sarah said, her voice cold. It's nothing personal, just business. Sorry, Lisa, Sarah said, her voice cold. It's nothing personal, just business. Lisa stared at her, mouth agape. Business? Sarah? The woman who'd championed her cause? Who'd practically become a friend? This couldn't be happening. Sarah, what are you doing? Lisa stammered. But the words felt hollow, lost in the cold, damp air of the sub-basement. Sarah didn't answer. She just leveled the gun, her face devoid of any emotion Lisa recognized. It's about the money, right? Thompson's paying you off? Lisa guessed, her mind racing, trying to find some logic in this insane situation. Sarah finally spoke, her voice flat. Thompson offered me a deal I couldn't refuse. Early retirement, a villa in the Bahamas, all yours if you just disappear. Disappear? Was this really how it ended? Kidnapped, betrayed, and about to be executed in some forgotten corner of Sterling Innovations? But then, Sarah lowered the gun. Just a fraction, almost imperceptible. But Lisa saw it. A flicker of hesitation in her eyes. I can't do it, Lisa, Sarah whispered, her voice cracking. I can't. Relief washed over Lisa, but it was short-lived, because at that moment, the lights went out. Total darkness. Then a blood-curdling scream. Not Lisa's. Sarah's. A gunshot. A thud. Then silence. Lisa stood frozen, heart pounding, straining to see through the impenetrable darkness. Who else was down here? What was happening? Suddenly, a small beam of light pierced the darkness, a flashlight. It flickered, revealing a figure standing over Sarah's body. Not Thompson, someone else. Someone impossibly familiar. Lisa gasped. It was Brenda from HR. But it wasn't Brenda. Not really. Because standing there, holding the flashlight in one hand and a smoking gun in the other, was a woman who looked just like Brenda, but with eyes that burned with Anne. Unnerving intensity. Eyes that Lisa realized she'd seen before, in a photograph. "Hello, Lisa," the woman said, her voice a chilling echo of Brenda's. Or should I say, daughter? Lisa's world shattered. The birth certificate, the blacked-out name, it all clicked into place with a sickening thud. Brenda, or whoever this woman was her mother. But why? Lisa choked out, the question barely audible. The woman smiled, a cruel, twisted smile that sent shivers down Lisa's spine. Because, darling, family always comes first. And your father, he made a lot of enemies. Enemies who are very interested in you. And then, just as suddenly as she'd appeared, the woman vanished back into the darkness, leaving Lisa alone with Sarah's body and a secret that threatened to consume everything she thought she knew. Her mother? A killer? And her father? Who was he, and what did Thompson want with him? Lisa stumbled back, bumping into something cold and metallic. She reached out, her fingers closing around a familiar shape, Sarah's gun. Suddenly, a door slammed open at the end of the hall. Footsteps echoed closer. They were coming for her. Lisa gripped the gun tighter. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. But now, she wasn't just fighting for her job. She was fighting for her life, and for the truth about her family. But as she raised the gun, a wave of nausea hit her. A dizzying realization. If Brenda was her mother, then who was her father? And why did she have the terrifying feeling that she already knew the answer? A name flashed through her mind. A name that had been whispered in hushed tones. A name that was synonymous with power, corruption, and unspeakable secrets. The footsteps were getting closer. Could it be? Was Thompson her father? Could it be? Was Thompson her father? The footsteps were right outside the door. Lisa didn't have time to think. She dove behind a stack of dusty boxes, Sarah's gun clutched tight. The door burst open, and two more guys in suits stormed in, guns drawn. They scanned the room, their eyes hard. "She's gotta be here," one growled. "Thompson wants her alive." Lisa held her breath, praying they wouldn't find her. They started moving boxes, tossing things around. One of them was getting closer. Then, a voice boomed from the hallway. "Hold it right there!" Everyone froze. It was Jake. The reporter. He stood in the doorway, a confident smirk on his face, and a dozen cops behind him? What the hell? Thompson's little? "Party is over," Jake announced, his voice echoing in the room. "We've got warrants for everyone involved in this little operation." The goons didn't stand a chance. The cops swarmed them, guns blazing, and in seconds, they were down. Lisa crawled out from behind the boxes, her legs shaking. "Jake, what's going on?" she asked, confused. He grinned. "I told you, Lisa. I dig deep. Found some friends in the right places. Turns out, Thompson's been under investigation for years. We just needed the right trigger to pull." Lisa looked at Sarah's body, lying cold on the floor. Too bad about her. Jake nodded grimly. Yeah, but she did the right thing in the end. Gave us the information we needed. She was working undercover, trying to bring Thompson down from the inside. Undercover? Sarah? Lisa couldn't believe it. Suddenly, one of the cops yelled, "We got him! Thompson's trying to escape!" Lisa's heart leaped into her throat. Thompson. She had to see him. She pushed her way through the cops and ran toward the hallway, following the sound of shouting. They had Thompson cornered in the loading dock. His face red with rage. He was yelling at the cops, threatening them, but they weren't listening. "You can't do this," he screamed. "I'm a powerful man. I'll have your badges." Lisa pushed through the crowd, her eyes locked on Thompson. He saw her, and his face twisted with fury. "You," he spat. "You ruined everything." Lisa didn't say anything. She just stared at him, trying to reconcile the image of this angry, desperate man with the powerful CEO she'd known for years. Could he really be her father? Then Thompson did something unexpected. He stopped yelling, and a strange, almost sad look came over his face. "Lisa," he said softly, "there's something you need to know." He took a step toward her, and the cops tensed, ready to stop him. But he ignored them. He just kept looking at Lisa, his eyes filled with regret. "Your mother, she wasn't who you think she was," he said. "She works for someone else, someone even more powerful than me." Lisa frowned. "What are you talking about?" Thompson hesitated, then took a deep breath. "Your mother, she was a double agent. She was working for the president." The world tilted. The president? What did the president have to do with any of this? He wanted me out of the picture. Thompson continued, his voice barely a whisper. "I knew too much. Your mother was supposed to take care of me. But she fell in love with me instead. That's why she gave you up, to protect you from him." Lisa's head was spinning. This was insane. The president? Double agents? It was like something out of a movie. But then Thompson said something that made her blood run cold. "He's still out there, Lisa," he said, his eyes wide with fear. "And he knows about you. He knows you're my daughter. He's going to come for you." Suddenly, a single shot rang out. Thompson crumpled to the ground. A bullet in his head. Everyone screamed. The cops scrambled for cover. Lisa stood frozen, staring at Thompson's lifeless body. Then she saw it, a glint of metal in the shadows, a figure disappearing into the night. It wasn't one of the cops. It wasn't Jake. It was someone else. Someone familiar. Someone wearing a Secret Service uniform. The Secret Service guy? He was gone. Just vanished, like a ghost. The cops were yelling, trying to secure the scene. But all Lisa could see was Thompson, lying there in a pool of blood. The president? A double agent mom? It was all too much. She felt like she was going to be sick. Jake grabbed her arm. "Lisa, we gotta get you out of here. It's not safe." He was right. Nowhere felt safe anymore. They went back to his place, a tiny, cluttered apartment above a pizza joint. He made her tea, but she couldn't swallow. She just sat there, staring at the wall, trying to make sense of it all. "Jake," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "My mom, she worked for the president?" He nodded grimly. "That's what Thompson said. I don't know if it's true, but Thompson wasn't exactly known for his honesty, you know? Everything changes everything." "But why? Why would the president want Thompson dead?" Jake sighed. "Look, Lisa, I don't have all the answers, but Thompson was into some seriously shady stuff. Offshore accounts, corrupt politicians. Maybe he knew too much. Maybe he was about to spill the beans. It still didn't make sense. And what about her? Why would the president care about her? Thompson said, he said the president knows I'm his daughter, that he's going to come for me. Jake looked at her, his eyes full of concern. Lisa, I won't let that happen. I'll protect you. She wanted to believe him. She really did. But she was starting to realize that she couldn't trust anyone, not even Jake. That night, she couldn't sleep. She kept seeing Thompson's face, hearing his last words. He's going to come for you. She got up, restless. She needed to do something. Anything. She went into Jake's living room. He was asleep on the couch, a newspaper draped over his face. Quietly, she went to his desk. He had files everywhere, notes scribbled on scraps of paper. She started rummaging through them, looking for anything about Thompson, about the president. Then she saw it, a folder labeled Project Nightingale. She opened it, her hands trembling. Inside, there were documents, photos, and a list of names. Names of people who were involved in some kind of secret operation. And her name was on the list. Lisa. Sterling Innovations. Asset. Asset? What did that mean? She kept reading. The documents described a plan to manipulate public opinion, to influence elections, to control the country. And she was part of it? She flipped through the photos. They were all of her. Photos taken without her knowledge. Photos of her at work, at home, with her friends. They'd been watching her. All along. Then, she saw something that made her heart stop. A photo of her and Jake. At a bar. They were laughing, talking, and in the corner of the photo, barely visible, was a familiar face. The secret service agent who had killed Thompson. The realization hit her like a punch to the gut. Jake. He was working with them. He'd been using her all this time. She looked at him, sleeping on the couch. The man she thought she could trust. The man who had sworn to protect her. He was one of them. Suddenly he stirred. He opened his eyes. He looked at her, a strange expression on his face. Lisa? He said, his voice low. What are you doing? She didn't say anything. She just stared at him. Her eyes filled with betrayal. He sat up, slowly. Lisa, I can explain. Explain what, Jake? She said, her voice shaking with rage. Explain why you're working with the president. Explain why you've been using me. He didn't answer. He just looked at her, his eyes filled with something she couldn't quite read. Then he reached under the couch cushion and pulled out a gun. I'm sorry, Lisa, he said, his voice cold, but you know too much. But before he could raise the gun, something incredible happened. The door to the apartment burst open. And standing there, silhouetted against the morning light, was a figure Lisa never expected to see again. Brenda, from HR. Or rather, her mother. The woman she thought was a killer. But this time she wasn't holding a gun. She was holding a badge. FBI, she yelled, her voice ringing with authority. Freeze! Drop the weapon! FBI, she yelled, her voice ringing with authority. Freeze! Drop the weapon! Jake didn't move. He just stared at Lisa, a mask of confusion, fear, and, was that relief? Crossing his face. The gun wavered in his hand. Jake, don't do it, Lisa pleaded, her voice trembling. Please. He flinched. Like he'd been flapped. Then, slowly he lowered the gun. Brenda, or whatever her real name was, stepped forward, her hand outstretched. Easy. Jake, she said, her voice surprisingly calm. Just hand it over. He hesitated for another agonizing second, then dropped the gun to the floor with a thud. Brenda swiftly kicked it away. The relief that washed over Lisa was immense. She wanted to run to her mother, hug her, but something held her back. Too many questions, too much confusion. What's going on? Lisa asked, her voice barely a whisper. Brenda turned to her, her face unreadable. It's complicated, sweetie. Very complicated. Complicated? You're an FBI agent. Jake's about to shoot me. How much more complicated can it get? Brenda sighed. Look, I can't explain everything right now. But trust me, I'm here to help you. Help me? You disappeared after Thompson was killed. I thought you were in on it. I had to protect you, Lisa, from everyone. Lisa's head was spinning. This was all too much. Let's get out of here, Brenda said, grabbing Lisa's arm. It's not safe. As they were leaving, Jake called out, Lisa, I was trying to protect you too. Lisa stared at him, tears welling up in her eyes. She didn't know what to believe anymore. As they reached the door, a figure stepped out of the shadows. Not a cop, not another suit. It was a woman, older, elegant, with eyes that burned with intelligence. Well, 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 the woman said, her voice smooth as silk. Look who we have here. Mother and daughter, reunited at last. Lisa stared at the woman, a shiver running down her spine. She knew that face. She'd seen it on TV, in magazines, on the news. Madam President, Brenda said, her voice tight. The president smiled, a cold, chilling smile. Hello, ladies. It's time we had a little chat. She stepped forward. And Lisa noticed something she hadn't seen before. The president wasn't alone. Behind her stood a man. Tall, imposing, with a familiar, steely gaze. Thompson. But it couldn't be. Thompson was dead. She saw him, lying in a pool of blood. The president chuckled, as if reading her thoughts. Oh, darling, did you really think we'd let something like a little gunshot wound stop us? Thompson here is a valuable asset, aren't you, darling? Thompson nodded, a chilling robotic smile plastered on his face. Lisa stared at them, her mind reeling. The president, Thompson, her mother, it was all connected. A web of lies, deceit, and unimaginable power. But then something even more shocking happened. Thompson stepped forward, his eyes locking onto Lisa's. Lisa, he said, his voice soft, almost pleading. There's something you need to know. Something I should have told you a long time ago. He paused, took a deep breath. Brenda, she's not your mother. Lisa stared at him, her mouth agape. What? What are you talking about? Thompson looked at Brenda, a mixture of sadness and regret in his eyes. Tell her, Brenda. Tell her the truth. Brenda hesitated, her face pale. Then she looked at Lisa, her eyes filled with tears. He's right, Lisa, she said, her voice trembling. I'm not your mother. I'm your sister. Lisa's world dissolved. Sister? Thompson alive? The president involved? What sick game was this? But Thompson wasn't finished. And Lisa, he continued, his voice barely a whisper. The president? She's not just the president. She's also... Before he could finish his sentence, the president raised her hand. And Thompson, her supposed valuable asset, crumpled to the floor, dead. Again. Brenda screamed. Lisa stood frozen, paralyzed by shock. The president turned to Lisa, her eyes cold and empty. Sometimes, darling, she said, her voice like ice, it's better not to know too much. And sometimes, family secrets are best left buried. She paused, then smiled, a truly terrifying smile. After all, Lisa, she said, you wouldn't want to upset your real mother, would you? A woman stepped out of the shadows, dressed in black. Her face was hidden by a mask. She walked slowly towards them. Who is that? Brenda stammered, her voice barely audible. The president put her arm around Lisa. The masked woman reached up and pulled off her mask. It was Hillary Clinton. "Hello, Lisa. It's time you met your mother." "Hello, Lisa. It's time you met your mother." Hillary Clinton? My mother? I stared at her, dumbfounded. This couldn't be real. It had to be some kind of twisted joke. But the look on Hillary's face was anything but a joke. It was cold, calculating, and hungry. Brenda, my sister, was just as shocked. Her mouth hung open, her eyes darting between Hillary and me. This can't be," she stammered. "It's not possible." Hillary ignored her. She reached out and took my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "Lisa, my dear," she said, her voice dripping with a saccharine sweetness that made my skin crawl. "Welcome to the family." Family? This woman was a monster. She'd just had Thompson killed again. What kind of family was this? "What do you want?" I managed to choke out, my voice trembling. Hillary smiled. "Oh, honey, I just want what's best for you, for us. You see, Lisa, you're special. You have a unique talent, and I need you to use that talent for the good of the country." "Talent? What talent? I was just a girl who got fired from her job." "I don't know what you're talking about," I said, trying to pull away from her. But her grip tightened. "Oh, I think you do. You're resourceful, intelligent, and fiercely loyal, just like your mother." She paused, her eyes narrowing. "Or should I say, just like me?" Suddenly, the room started to spin. I felt dizzy, nauseous. Everything was closing in on me. My mother was Hillary Clinton? Thompson was my father? Brenda was my sister? It was all too much. Then everything went black. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. The room was sterile, white, and smelled of disinfectant. Brenda was sitting beside me, her face etched with worry. "Lisa, you're awake!" she cried, grabbing my hand. "Thank God." "What happened?" I asked, my voice hoarse. "You fainted," she said. "Hillary, she told you everything, didn't she?" I nodded, my head pounding. "It's true? She's our mother?" Brenda sighed. "It's true. Our mother is Hillary Clinton, and our father was Thompson." I couldn't process it. It was like something out of a nightmare. "Where is she?" I asked, my heart pounding in my chest. "She's gone," Brenda said. "She said she had important business to attend to, but she promised she'd be back." Back? I didn't want her back. I wanted to run as far away from her as possible. "We have to get out of here," I said, sitting up in bed. "She's dangerous. She's insane." But Brenda shook her head. "We can't, Lisa. She won't let us. We're trapped." Trapped? Was this my life now? A prisoner of my own mother? Suddenly, the door to the room burst open, and standing there with a gun in her hand and a look of pure fury on her face was Sarah Walker. But it wasn't the Sarah Walker I knew. This Sarah was different. Her eyes were cold, hard, and filled with an unbridled rage. "You!" she screamed, pointing the gun at me. "You ruined everything!" I stared at her, terrified. "Sarah? What are you doing? You're supposed to be dead." Sarah laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "Dead? Oh, I'm very much alive, and I'm here to finish what I started." She raised the gun, her finger tightening on the trigger. This was it. This was how it all ended. But then something unexpected happened. Someone jumped in front of me, shielding me from the bullet. Brenda. The gunshot rang out, deafening in the small room. Brenda gasped, her eyes widening in shock. She looked at me, a single tear rolling down her cheek. I always wanted a sister, she whispered. Then she collapsed to the floor, dead. I screamed, a primal, guttural sound of pure anguish. Sarah had killed my sister. My only family. But as I knelt beside Brenda's body, a horrifying realization dawned on me. The bullet hadn't hit Brenda in the chest. It had hit her in the head. And the gun wasn't Sarah's. It was mine. I looked down at my hand, my fingers still wrapped around the cold, metallic grip of the gun. I had killed my own sister. But how? I didn't even remember pulling the trigger. A figure emerged from the shadows, a sinister smile on her face. Hillary Clinton. Oops, she giggled, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Looks like you're just like me, darling. A natural-born killer. But why did I feel like I was being controlled? The room started spinning again. This time I knew it wasn't just shock. It was something else. Something sinister. A voice echoed in my head, a voice that wasn't my own. A voice that was cold, calculating, and familiar. You're mine now, Lisa. And then I knew. I wasn't Lisa anymore. I was Hillary Clinton's puppet. You're mine now, Lisa. The room blurred. My vision tunneled, focusing on Hillary's ice-cold smile. It wasn't just her words. It was something else. A command. A possession. I tried to fight it, to scream, to run, but my body wouldn't respond. It was like I was trapped inside my own head, watching helplessly as someone else took over. My arm rose. The gun in my hand pointed straight ahead, at Brenda's lifeless body. A laugh bubbled up from my throat, a high-pitched, insane giggle that didn't sound like me. Not at all. See, Lisa? Hillary said, her voice echoing inside my skull. You're perfect, just like me. I wanted to vomit, to claw my eyes out, but I couldn't. Now, let's take care of a few loose ends, shall we? Hillary continued, her voice a seductive whisper in my ear. My body moved, gliding across the room with an unnatural grace, toward Sarah, the Sarah who was supposed to be dead. The Sarah who was now staring at me with a mixture of horror and understanding? I know. What you've done, Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. You've taken her. You've taken Lisa. Hillary laughed again, the sound grating on my nerves. Oh, Sarah, you always were the clever one. But cleverness isn't enough, is it? My hand tightened on the trigger. No! Sarah screamed, but it was too late. The gun fired, again and again, until the clip was empty. Sarah's body crumpled to the floor, riddled with bullets. Silence. Then, Hillary spoke, her voice now clear and distinct in my mind. Excellent work, Lisa. You're a quick learner. I finally managed to regain a sliver of control, a tiny spark of resistance. What have you done to me? I stammered, my voice barely audible. I've given you purpose, darling, Hillary purred. I've shown you your true potential. But Brenda, collateral damage, Hillary said dismissively. She was weak. You're not weak, Lisa. You're strong. You're powerful. You're me. And then she showed me a glimpse of the future. A future where I, Lisa, was standing beside her, ruling the world. A future where there was no good or bad, only power. A future where anyone who stood in our way would be eliminated. I recoiled in horror. This wasn't me. This couldn't be me. But it was. Because, as I looked down at my hands, I saw them. Hillary's hands. And I knew, with a chilling certainty, that Lisa was gone. I was Hillary now, and the world would tremble. Then, a jarring pain in my left arm that felt oddly familiar. I looked down to see the small, freckled hands of my younger brother David. yanking and shaking my left arm with a mixture of urgency and concern. Lisa, wake up! You were having a nightmare! Lisa, wake up! You were having a nightmare! David? Meu irmãozinho? O quê? Onde eu estava? Me sentei, tonta. O quarto era familiar. Meu antigo quarto. Na casa dos meus pais. Papel de parede desbotado, pôster do NSYNC torto na parede, tudo igual. O que está acontecendo? Perguntei, minha voz rouca. David me encarava preocupado. Você estava gritando, Lisa, falando um monte de coisas sem sentido. Sobre a Hillary Clinton e armas? Hillary Clinton. As imagens voltaram com força total. O tiroteio, Brenda, meus pais. Onde estão a mamãe e o papai? Perguntei, o pânico começando a subir. David franziu a testa. Trabalhando, né? Como sempre. Lisa, você tá bem? Trabalhando. Como sempre? Como se nada tivesse acontecido? Me levantei, cambaleando. Precisava de ar fresco. Precisava entender o que era real e o que não era. Fui até a janela e abri. A vista era a mesma de sempre. A rua tranquila do subúrbio. As casas com gramados bem cuidados. As crianças andando de bicicleta. Um dia normal. Uma vida normal. Mas nada parecia normal. Nada fazia sentido. De repente, um carro parou na frente da casa. Um carro preto, elegante, com vidros fumês. Meu sangue gelou. A porta do carro se abriu e uma figura saiu. Uma mulher, elegante com um terninho azul. Hillary Clinton. Meu coração disparou. Não podia ser. Não podia ser real. Ela olhou diretamente para minha janela e sorriu. Um sorriso frio. Calculista. Me escondi atrás da cortina, tremendo. Precisava sair dali. Precisava fugir. Lisa, quem tá aí? David perguntou, se aproximando. Ninguém, gritei, agarrando-o pelo braço. A gente precisa ir embora. Agora. O quê? Pra onde? Pra qualquer lugar. Só saiamos daqui. Mas já era tarde demais. A campainha tocou. Um toque longo e insistente. David me olhou, apavorado. Quem é? Eu sabia quem era. Ignorei a campainha e corri para a porta dos fundos, puxando David comigo. Precisávamos chegar ao carro. Precisávamos escapar. Abri a porta dos fundos e dei de cara com 2 homens de terno preto, barrando a passagem. Onde pensam que vão? Um deles perguntou com um sorriso ameaçador. Eu e David trocamos olhares desesperados. Estávamos presos. De repente, um grito, vindo da sala de estar. Mamãe! Papai! Era a voz de David. Empurrei os homens e corri de volta para casa. A cena que vi na sala de estar me paralisou. Meus pais estavam amarrados em cadeiras, amordaçados, apavorados, e Hillary Clinton estava parada na frente deles, com uma arma na mão. Ora, ora, ela disse com um tom divertido. Parece que a família está reunida. Eu não conseguia falar. Não conseguia me mover. Lisa, querida, Hillary continuou, se aproximando de mim. Você não imagina o que eu tenho planejado para nós. De repente, um som agudo, um apito, vindo do meu bolso. Esqueci completamente. O celular que eu tinha pegado na pressa antes de fugir. Hillary parou. Seus olhos se estreitaram. O que é isso? Ela perguntou, seu tom mudando de divertido para ameaçador. Peguei o celular e olhei para a tela. E uma mensagem, de um número desconhecido. Ela está mentindo. Você não é filha dela. Meu queixo caiu. Não podia ser. Mais uma reviravolta? Olhei para Hillary. Ela estava furiosa. Quem te mandou isso? Ela gritou, avançando para mim. Mas antes que ela pudesse me alcançar, uma voz soou do lado. De fora da casa. FBI. Mãos para cima. Sirenes. Luzes. Confusão. A polícia invadiu a casa. Hillary foi presa. Meus pais foram libertados. Mas a mensagem, quem a tinha enviado? E se Hillary não fosse minha mãe? Quem era? Naquela noite, depois que meus pais adormeceram, peguei o celular e respondi a mensagem. Quem é você? A resposta veio quase que instantaneamente. Alguém que sabe a verdade. Encontre-me amanhã, no Central Park, no carrossel, ao meio-dia. Meu coração batia forte. É uma armadilha? Ou a minha única chance de descobrir a verdade? Decidi arriscar. No dia seguinte, ao meio-dia, eu estava no Central Park, no carrossel, esperando. De repente, uma figura se aproximou. Uma mulher, com um casaco longo e óculos escuros. Ela parou na minha frente. Tirou os óculos escuros. Meu sangue gelou. Era Brenda. Brenda, viva? Impossível. E, no entanto, ali estava ela. Mas não era a Brenda que eu conhecia. A secretária tímida e eficiente. Essa Brenda tinha um olhar duro, decidido. Uma aura de poder que eu nunca tinha notado antes. Você? Você morreu! Exclamei, incrédula. Ela sorriu, um sorriso frio que não alcançava os olhos. Quase. Hillary me queria fora do caminho. Mas eu sou mais resistente do que ela imagina. Mas, como? Longa história. Digamos que eu tenho amigos em lugares altos. Amigos que me ajudaram a forjar minha morte e a me infiltrar na organização de Hillary. Organização? Que organização? Hillary não age sozinha, Lisa. Ela faz parte de um grupo muito maior. Um grupo que controla o mundo pelas sombras. E você, sem saber, estava prestes a se tornar uma peça fundamental no plano deles. O plano. As imagens que Hillary me mostrou. A dominação mundial. Era tudo real? Eu preciso detê-los, declarei, a determinação preenchendo meu peito. Brenda assentiu. Eu sei, e eu vou te ajudar. Mas não podemos fazer isso sozinhas. Precisamos de aliados. Quem? Pense bem, Lisa. Quem mais foi enganado por Hillary? Quem mais tem motivos para querer vê-la atrás das grades? Uma imagem surgiu na minha mente. Jake, o repórter. Ele me traiu, sim. Mas talvez ele pudesse ser redimido. Eu sei quem, respondi. E assim juntas, ele e Brenda traçamos um plano. Um plano arriscado, audacioso. Um plano que envolvia expor Hillary e sua organização para o mundo todo. Os próximos dias foram uma loucura. Contatamos Jake, que, para minha surpresa, se mostrou genuinamente arrependido e disposto a ajudar. Reunimos provas, documentos, depoimentos. Construímos um caso sólido contra Hillary. E então chegou a hora. Em uma conferência de imprensa, transmitida ao vivo para o mundo todo, eu, Lisa, revelei a verdade. Contei sobre a organização secreta, os planos de dominação mundial, as mortes, as mentiras. Expus Hillary Clinton, a mulher que pensava ser minha mãe, como a vilã que ela realmente era. O mundo entrou em choque. Hillary foi presa, assim como seus cúmplices. A organização foi desmantelada. A justiça finalmente foi feita. Mas a história não termina aqui. Porque durante a investigação, descobrimos algo ainda mais chocante. Algo que mudou tudo. Descobrimos quem era meu verdadeiro pai. E não era Thompson. Era alguém muito, muito mais poderoso. Alguém que tinha motivos para me querer por perto. Alguém que, bem, essa é uma história para outra hora. Mas agora preciso te alertar. Você precisa se inscrever agora no canal, para não perder as próximas histórias exclusivas. Este é o momento para demonstrar seu apoio e esmagar o botão de like agora para alimentar o algoritmo. Não espere nem mais um segundo para compartilhar instantaneamente este vídeo com pelo menos 5 amigos que precisam conhecer este desfecho. Inunde a seção de comentários com suas reações e teorias sobre o final. Apenas os verdadeiros fãs compreendem a importância de apoiar o canal com estas ações. O que será que vem por aí?